The dying days of WCW were a rollercoaster ride for fans, talent, and management alike. Crazy storylines, bizarre decisions, and seemingly no rhyme or reason as to why anything was happening. It's like seeing an old friend slowly go off the rails. You didn't like it, but what are you gonna do to stop it? The landscape was shifting so constantly in the 2000s that it affected the roster too, seemingly changing on a whim and just pushing random people all the time, before they vanished entirely. Trying to keep up with it was a challenge all of its own. You just never knew who would come on TV, and why they were even there to begin with. As such, there was a bunch of people that everyone forgot about, on occasion, almost as soon as they had arrived. So, with that in mind, I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 WCW stars from the 2000s you totally don't remember. Number 10, the artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea. When Prince Iaukea first arrived in WCW in 1996, he was a skilled youngster who did have some potential. Handled right, there was a definite place for the man, and the future was pretty bright. Given that this was World Championship Wrestling though, and he wasn't a major star from the 80s, his star started to fizzle out, which is why in the 2000s, he made the switch to become the artist formerly known as Prince Iaukea. Because, you know, he had Prince in his name, and the musician Prince had done a similar thing. It's great stuff, this. It did give him a small boost as he was able to win the Cruiserweight title, but then all the pieces moved and he was released from his contract in the summer. That's why it's rare anyone remembers him. Although he won gold, WCW hit the giant reset button so soon after this transformation that anyone barely saw him again. Number 9, Buzzkill. Brad Armstrong is the brother of one Road Dogg Jesse James. This is why when Vince Russo jumped ship to the WCW, he saw the sibling and thought to himself, screw it, I'll just make him a carbon copy of the New Age Outlaw character that has been doing so well elsewhere. You don't even need me to tell you, this was an awful idea. Becoming Buzzkill, Brad had similar music and even introduced himself as the B-U-Z-Z. How anyone in their right mind thought this was a good idea, I do not know. It all ran its course in record time because in March of 2000 Armstrong got injured and was never even thought of again, let alone seen, his legacy now being a casualty of Russo's inane WCW booking tirade. Number 8, Reno. Things weren't all bad for WCW in the 2000s, and one such highlight was a group called the Natural Born Thrillers. Featuring the likes of Chuck Palumbo, Sean O'Haire and Mark Jindrak, it consisted of dudes who had shined in WCW's power plant training facility and actually had some potential. One member who is forgotten about is the man named Reno. Like the rest of his cohorts, he definitely had an upside to him, but he became persona non grata after WCW folded in 2001. The WWE did sign him to a developmental deal, but he was dropped from that only months afterwards. He did manage to have some time in the sun in the sense he won the WCW Hardcore Championship in October 2000, but that's literally all he did. I couldn't even tell you what he sounded like, because he was never allowed to talk. Number 7, Kid Romeo. Kid Romeo will always be able to say he had the second to last match in WCW history where he teamed with Elix Skipper to lose the Cruiserweight Tag Team titles to Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman. So a double-edged sword really, but still, he'll be a wrestling trivia question forever. These were his titles of choice too, because Romeo and Skipper also have the honour of being the first ever Cruiserweight Tag Champs. And they won those at the always stupidly named pay-per-view Greed. But, to be honest, that's about as far as recapping his career goes. Nothing else to say. He did pop up in TNA every now and then, but it didn't help that his gimmick seemed to be inspired by the likes of Ricky Martin, and that Romeo just loved to dance. Never really works that, does it? When your thing is, well done, you dance. How you doing, Fandango? Number 6, Jason Jett. A victim of WCW's decision to just grab loads of young talent and throw them on TV before the company died, Jason Jett should have had a far better career once the doors had been closed. Able to fly around the ring quite well and with a spell in ECW under his belt, he had a pretty damn good match with Kid Cash at Anarchy Rules 2000, but then was never given the opportunity to build off that. He did claim wins over Alex Wright, Kiwi, Disco Inferno and Cash again in WCW, but ultimately its death ruined any momentum he should have had. Jet too was able to get a WWE developmental deal, but again, was let go not that long afterwards. Number 5, Asia. This is so embarrassing it actually hurts me to even talk about. Like right now, I can actually feel a pain in my side. What the fuck, WCW? What the fuck? But yes, because WWE had found great success with a woman named Chyna, WCW decided they had to have a piece of the pie as well, so they created Asia. It was so transparent, they even just picked a continent as the name. Because China is China, but spelled differently, and China's only a country, and Asia is a continent, so that's much better and much bigger. This is what a child does, man. A really stupid child. The task, however, did fall to Christy Wolf, who herself was a female bodybuilder, and she was put in the Revolution stable alongside Shane Douglas, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn. It got worse from there, though, as she ended up in the whole Oklahoma debacle and then propped up the Demon character as that went down the toilet too. She was eventually released in August 2000, and that was that. WCW had pretty much screwed her over. No coming back. Number 4, the Maestro. Everything I'm about to say out loud is 100% true. I'm not making any of this up. At Super Brawl 2000, Ernest the Cat Miller and the Maestro engaged in a feud about music so that James Brown could make his debut for the company. That's right, friends. That's right. Better still, WCW didn't even bother to promote that the musical legend would be on the show, meaning his appearance meant approximately jack shit. It was awful all round, made worse because the Maestro gimmick was just ridiculous. There was no upside, he was never going to make a difference for the promotion, his attire was offensive to your eyes, and he was released before the year 2000 was done. Number 3, Air Raid. Long before AJ Styles was the best wrestler in the world, he was in WCW and he was in a team called Air Raid. Pairing up with Air Paris, the two were brought in to try and add depth to WCW's new Cruiserweight Tag Team division. Even though they both looked about 12 years old, they did have tremendous skill between the ropes, and it was clear something special was in the air, even if they couldn't legally purchase alcohol. Once again falling foul to the death of WCW, the team wouldn't even make it to a pay-per-view, and neither man had their contracts picked up by WWE. This meant they were only around for a few months before going their separate ways, but hindsight tells us this all worked out for the best. Isn't that right, AJ Styles? Number 2, the Dog. The late great George the Animal Steele was a legend of the business, and for many, many reasons. His WCW repackaging as the Dog in the 2000s is probably not one of them. Introduced by Fit Finlay and Brian Knobbs, the Dog was led to the ring on a leash and acted like a crazy mutt that was out of control, even drank from toilet bowls. I mean, that's some serious dedication to the character, but this is all WCW could come up with for a man who had genuinely influenced and impacted the business? A dog? That's called the Dog? While he did his best with it, this was never going to last that long because it was utterly stupid. He was quietly phased out as WCW went from bad to worse. It was probably for the best in the long run. Number 1, The Machine. Known in real life as Emery Hale, The Machine only wrestled one match in WCW, which clearly wasn't the intended plan. Obviously a pet project for the company, hence why he was teamed up with Jimmy Hart, it failed miserably, underlined by the time Hale, for no reason, jumped from the top turnbuckle onto the ropes in a match against DDP, even though he didn't have to. It was like he thought a fire was brewing beneath his ass, and even Page himself started to laugh in the ring. And that was it. The Machine was never seen again, meaning the whole thing was a waste of everyone's life. But then again, this was WCW in the 2000s. What a mess.
So that was our video. Thank you for watching. Please do feel free to click on anything happening around my head, or something terrible might happen to this dog. Is that you too sweeting me, bro? Ugh. Disgusting. That's really bad.